I was born February the 6th, 1929 in Neuwied on the Rhine, Germany. We were in the retail business. My primary memory goes back to age 6 when I was supposed to start school. I was no longer permitted to go to public school. Jews were not permitted to go to public school at that time already. We were not allowed to go to certain stores, to certain the movie house, swimming pool, things of that nature was prohibited to Jews. So I had a very definite feeling already then about being different. Then came Crystal Night, November the 9th, 1938, where the synagogues were put on fire, where at 2 o'clock in the morning my father was arrested, quote, protective custody. A gang of men entered the business and destroyed everything inside, broke it, pitched it, and then they went into our home, which was upstairs, and all the china and all the crystal and all the books were out the window, and the chairs and whatever was small enough to fit through the window was pitched out. And I started to scream already when they were downstairs because I didn't know what this was all about. And one of them called over, "Hey, Rosemary, don't worry. We are not going to hurt you or your mother." They knew me, I knew them. My father was sent on to Dachau. He came back. We were able to buy him out of Dachau 2 weeks later. And he had to sign a paper never to reveal where he had been, aside from saying he was in Dachau. What had occurred there, what was done to him, what he had seen done to others. And he also had to be out of Germany by January 1, 1939. He had 2 sisters who lived in Holland, and they were able to get him a permit to enter Holland. But unbeknownst to him, the condition was that he could not be a free human being. He was immediately put into a camp. And my brother and I followed him. On April 1st, we also were immediately put in a camp. As soon as the Germans really got hold in Holland, they set aside an area in the middle of nowhere, right in the center of Holland, really totally desolated area, to build the Dutch concentration camp. And since they had people already in camps where it was very simple to just shift them over there, they did that with us, and we had to build Westerbork. And by the end of 41, the transports came into Holland, into the camp from Holland. They were gathering all the people out of Holland, and they brought them into the camp. And they had large barracks where they were all housed, 400 or 500 in one area. Twice a week, a transport left for what we were told was labor camp in Germany. Reality, of course, was a lot different. It was Auschwitz, but that we didn't know. Now, saying on the train as being very kind, it was cattle cars, 40 and 50 and 60 in one. The tiny little ventilation windows was all there was. Doors were sealed shut. Bathroom facilities were a bucket in the corner. Sometimes those buckets were emptied every day. Sometimes they were not emptied for days. By January of 44, Holland was virtually free of Jews. There were a few left and a few were hidden. We were sent off to Theresienstadt. I think the trip took 3 days. There we were crowded in one attic. Our bed was a straw sack about this long, this wide. Lice, fleas, bed bugs shared it with us. Sanitary conditions were terrible. A shower once a month, a shower. Cold water, of course. Bathroom facilities were holes in the floor, and you aimed. Toilet paper, what's that? I mean, this is something most people don't talk about, but I think it gives a much clearer idea of the inhuman conditions. The bread was 80% rotten potatoes. The protein in it were the bugs. My mother, who never in her life weighed less than 250 pounds, being 5'1" tall maybe. Of course, 250 pounds with a little 5-foot wall. She was fat. At liberation time, she was 80 pounds. She could not stand on her own feet. By September of '44, they decided to send transport out of Theresienstadt. Well, the first transport out was my father and brother. 2 transports later, I was on the list to leave. The overseer of the industry did not find me at my machine, questioned them. They told him I was in the transport, and he had me pulled off the transport. I am totally convinced it was divine intervention. By January of '45, Theresienstadt received transports in again, but these were transports from other concentration camps. The skeletons, the totally emaciated, where they were more dead than alive. And some of the stories which these skeletons were able to tell yet, this is where we really found out for the first time about the annihilation. The gassing, which we did not know before. I've seen some of the best in human nature, and I've seen some of the worst, right there in the camps. We all wanted to live, but to do it at the expense of others, it's something I can't comprehend. We were told over and over again, if you misbehave in any way, if you do something you're not supposed to, not only will you be punished, but 50 others will be. You can't take responsibility for 50 other lives. And there were some who didn't care. One of the girls was an epileptic. Every time she had an attack, of course, we had to quickly hide her. We created some kind of a commotion. And I was part of that, to draw attention away from her. Those are the kind of things which are very much worth remembering, to see some of the good in people. We were liberated by the Russians the day we were to be annihilated. That very day we were liberated. Finally, I was able to get a job in a factory, and in no time I worked my way up to assistant designer, and that's when I left for America. I was so very, very, very young, 10 years old, when things blew up. I don't know what kind of a person I would have been had all this not happened to me. We cannot afford to forget. We must remember it not for the horror of it, but for the lessons we've learned from it.